I would like to start, let's say, with a very fundamental question. And that is, why do you believe people want to lead others? And I'll tell you the background of my story. I have a lot of coaching clients, and a number of them have just the intrinsic desire or wish to leave other people. So not to have influence or create things, but really, let's say, leading other people as a goal in itself. Where do you think that drive stems from?
Now, there are many people who don't want to lead anybody. They, by hook or by crook, they got into that position and are very reluctant leaders. I see.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess many people came to my class and they were probably number two, and suddenly they're in a position of being number one, and they're wondering, do I have it? Do I really want to be in the front? Do I like to be in the limelight? It's you can compare sometimes with doctoral students who cannot finish the dissertation.
Hmm.
When they finish it, people are going to criticize them, so they don't like to. But part of it, you probably have to pay your rent, the school fees for your children, so you have to earn some money.
Hmm.
Some of them, as I said, I was also interested in entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are very often very difficult people. And as a result, they have discovered that it's very hard for them to work in certain structures unless they are in control. So it's not, I mean, it's not an easy answer to that question. That I don't really get people say, I really want to lead people. No,
Hmm. No.
no. People talk more about, I want to have an interesting life. I want to have interesting experiences. I want, some people are very specific about, I want to have FU money because where I come from, there was no money, and
Yeah.
money for me is independence. So as a result, I like to go into banking. That's the old story of the bank robbers that where he robs bank. He said that's where the money is. That's and so that's. But to say I want to really lead people,
Yeah.
I never hear that, to be honest.
No, no, I did, and perhaps that's a kind of, let's say, cultural or geographic thing, but I have had a lot of people who have that as a kind of intrinsic desire. So that's interesting, because if you talk about leadership, what never ceases to amaze me, and you wrote quite a bit about it, is our human desire to be led. Now, for instance, I'm a Christian, and I often recall how, despite God's warning, the people of Israel insisted of having a king, and that's the story is in 1 Samuel 8. So, where does the universal desire of our human being for leaders, and often strong leaders, truly stem from? I mean, I know you recently wrote a lot about Trump. So what is it in us, Manfred, that we want people to lead us?
Now, Trump, of course, is a reflection of what's happening in American society, and maybe society at large. Unfortunately, people in Europe, we have no vote. We couldn't vote for him, but we have the effects of his particular behavior. But when you live in a time of a lot of uncertainties, where quote unquote the horsemen of the apocalypse are running around in the form of
Yeah,
disease, war. There's lots of wars going on.
climate change.
Climate change, of course, is always the nuclear threat. People regress. We go back to it's not very, not rocket science. Regress, and you look for some kind of father, mother figure, usually a father figure who is going to take care of everything. So you don't have to think anymore. That's what it is. I mean, Freud wrote about it so many years ago in group psychology about what we do. So that's a natural tendency. In the meantime, it's also very nice that somebody else think for you, but it's very dangerous because when you talk about leadership, I've written quite a bit about narcissistic behavior, but there's also a word called hubris. You need to be somewhat narcissistic to want to be a leader. I mean, narcissists has to do also with self-esteem, self-confidence, and things like that. But the moment you're in a leadership position, people start to react to you in certain ways, and before you know it, you might find yourself in an echo chamber. And of course, in the case of Trump, it's so crazy when you have cabinet meetings. The first people all praise how great he is. They have to keeps on praising him. When you're a foreign dignitary coming to Trump, you have to praise him first, and you get a
And it
seminar.
also does something to his psyche, probably as well.
I mean, he is so empty inside that he continues need reinforcement that he is the greatest, the best, whatever. And he comes from a fairly not, I mean, look at his family constellation. The brother who basically drank himself to death. The father was a psychopathic individual. Mother was depressed. There's a very strange situation there. But anyhow, so you have this an interesting, interactive process in psychoanalytic terminology. You have the word transference, which
Yeah.
no relationship is a new relationship. All relationships are called by previous relationships. So very quickly, people in authority transform into parental figures, teachers, or whatever. And so there's a universal human tendency. And to prevent that from happening, I would say, how can you teach children, and also at home, critical thinking, which becomes more and more difficult with all this kind of conspiracy theories you find on the web and things like that. How can you help them to really keep their mind with all this information, which is, that's you know that as well as I do. I live in a situation of information explosion. I get so much
Yeah.
information. And that's at the same time, I try to read a wide variety of newspapers to really get from the left to the right to get a sense
Yeah,
of
same here. Yeah. Yeah.
to try to at least to have an informed opinion.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, it really is very simple regression. When you are living in a time of uncertainty, you tend to regress and say, "My God, I wish life was simple." It was very simple when I was a kid. There was a parental figure when I had pain or whatever, I could run to my father or mother and they would take care of me. And that this dependency reaction is very much there. But because it's interactive process, the person on the other side, the leader, starts to become, because of the way people react to him or her, it's usually him, uh, starts to live in his own world. And you get you get hubris becoming too full of himself. The
Yeah.
more the person becomes the businessman or the women of the year, I think you should sell you shares
Yeah.
because that strange things are going to happen.
Yeah.
That's one major reaction there. And of course, Trump, in many ways, when you look at American society, things are not going well in American society. When you look at the opioid crisis and things like that, all the guns, all these kind of things, and large groups of people out of work. And a big part of it is, he also wrote an article and sent it out yesterday on income inequality and was comparing it with the various kings in France, Louis the Sun King, the 15th and the 16th, who were beheaded. And so, and you have, of course, the expression in family system theory about rijks to rijks in 3 generations. Uh, and so Trump has an uncanny ability to recognize the grievances in society, and he expressed that, and that's the reason he got elected. I mean, many people, and unfortunately, there's would be so much better people than the crook to in that particular. I mean, that's what he is. He said, when you look at his history, it's the famous book Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
Every he dealt with, he stiffed. Didn't pay his bills. I mean, every time his father and Mr. Cohn, the lawyer, bailed him out.
Yeah.
That's what happened. So he was, and that's the reason he's so obsessed by deals. It's crazy. Now he can make deals, by the way, because he has so much power. And
Yeah.
finally he's making money. He never made any money, but now he got a silver spoon from his father, but now he's really making money in
Yeah.
a way that is highly unethical if you are in a political situation. It would not be possible in normal societies, but in that respect, you may wonder. So it's not that difficult. You have the process like regression, you have transferential processes, and dependency reactions, which all lead to this particular process where people are looking for someone to lead them. But it's so dangerous. I mean, do you know? I always ask people, do you know who's the president of Switzerland?
Yeah.
I forgot. That's a
Yeah.
very good sign. It's a very good sign.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Who is the president of Switzerland? Fantastic. I don't know it.
Yeah.
It rotates.
Correct. Yeah.
It's a good sign because I mean, I live in France where you have Macron, who has done
Yeah.
a lot of good things, although French don't appreciate it. At least he has some sense of economics. I mean, the French. I mean, now in some countries they start to teach youngsters economics 101. I mean, the symbol of France is Marianne. I mean, look at this symbol of France is
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah. With the flag and
Marianne
yeah,
has endless breast and endless milk. That's not the way
yeah,
it works. I mean,
yeah.
and the political parties don't see it. I mean, and basically, many political parties, what they're doing here in France is kicking the can down the road because who is going to afford the retirement? And the decreasing population who's getting older. I mean, and you have I mean, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So the idea of also teaching children a little bit about economics would not be such a bad idea I'm not against humanities, by the way, and teaching
Yeah.
about philosophy and literature, but something to be a little more realistic. You don't have these crazy mandates like here in France of Mélenchon, who's on totally at the left, and then you have Le Pen totally to the right. It's not way. It doesn't work.
No, it's not a long-term sustainability option. No. And Manfred, in the path to authentic leadership, you discussed the dark diet, the toxic combination of narcissism and psychopathy. And you've written quite a bit about it. You explored it through the lens of nature versus nurture, touching on possible explanations like childhood experiences and metabolic brain activity. What is your latest thinking on the origins and developments of the dark diet?
Usually people talk about the dark triad, as you know, because
Yeah,
the
I know, I know, I know that you simplified it. Yeah, it's yeah,
Machiavellian. But Machiavellian is a derivative. That's the reason I get irritated about this derivative of the psychopathology,
yeah.
narcissism. So I find people who talk about the dark triad, and maybe they want to put Machiavellianism more on the. You have, of course, lots of tests about Machiavellianism. But this combination about psychopath light, of course, when you think about serious psychopath, you think about serial killers and whatever.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, yeah.
And basically, it comes down to that those people, and we really don't know exactly the nature of it. It's probably a mixture again of nature and nurture. That certain they don't experience what other people would call guilt and things like that and shame.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So as a result, and they rationalize very easily why they're doing what they're doing. Of course, I'm, I think 1% of the population has some psychopathic tendencies. In certain industries, at the higher level, it's higher. Talk about particularly the financial industry. So. Um, I mean, I've written on what's called the malignant narcissist, which is really this combination, and my role model there, if they call it a role model, is Trump.
Mm-hmm.
He has both characteristics. One of the elements is the vindictiveness. He's
Mm-hmm.
we go after everybody, and we
Yeah.
keep on blaming other people and things like that, not taking some. Now, this famous movie director died. What does he do? He starts to blame instead of trying to unite the nation, he divides it even more because he lives on the politics of rage, and of course the algorithm of different that we get much more excited about the fight-flight reaction. So, so if you say, today another nice day, beautiful weather, the flowers are growing and things like that, boring. But you say, somebody got shot around the corner. It's dangerous here. That gets people going.
Yeah.
The various algorithm of the various platforms, you know, accentuate it, and it's not very helpful. It's going to be interesting to see that experiment in in Australia where they forbid children to a certain
Yeah. Watch social media. Yeah.
that's it, until 16. It's of course before people's brains are fully developed, you are in your 20s.
It gives a lot of A/B testing material in the coming years, I think. And but I think you touched on a very true point. That's what I recognize in leaders that, and unfortunately I know quite a few of them who are, let's say, possessed by this dark diet. There is indeed an element of vindictiveness. I never thought about it, but there is an element of settling all scores. Once they yeah.
It's it's very old Babylonian law, an eye for an eye.
Yeah.
So that's we have this kind of reaction, and probably it was when you look at primitive man, it was a way of survival. You had to set certain rules. So if a person transgressed, bad news would happen. So that's where it certainly comes from. Uh,
Yeah.
um, Now, hope we, yeah, the sad thing is we don't learn. As a species, we keep on having wars. We keep doing the same things. We still have all those crazy ideologies. I mean, you think about. Uh, I mean, I'm a Russiophile. I was very happy when Russia opened. I spent a lot of time in Russia. Lots of Russian friends, but and there you see again ideologies, old men sending young men to die.
Yeah.
What it comes down to, and because of some crazy ideologies, instead of live and let live.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would make the joke. After Hitler and Napoleon, anybody wants to invade Russia, but many of them live under this fear that any of the people are going to invade Russia. Nobody, I have not met anybody yet who said, really, we should really invade Russia. No,
No. No,
no.
me neither. No, I think that the enthusiasm is gone.
It's an illusion. But in the meantime, so many people have died, and what people also don't realize. I also wrote an article about it. To integrate soldiers into society after having gone through some horrible experience is not that easy.
No.
But all these traumatic experiences, and we don't think about that. It's
No. No, 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 no. We expect them to come back and simply start participating in our civilian life like nothing else happened. Yeah, yeah, and I think that's probably the reason why a lot of them wind up, on the street or in derelict circumstances. Or yeah, yeah,
exactly, exactly.
yeah. Hey, a very sobering but very interesting statistics you quote is also in your book Mindful Leadership Coaching. You cite Robert Hare's finding that while 1% of the general population falls into the psychopathy spectrum, this figure is significantly higher in executive position,
And
3.9%.
the
Huh?
financial section,
Huh? Sorry?
and the financial section, the financial.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what is your explanation for this disproportionate representation? And if I connect it to what you also said, that the relatively high numbers of individuals on the spectrum gravitate towards financial services, and I can definitely testify to that. It definitely aligns with my own professional experiences. But what is your explanation for let's say this dual thing? So on the one hand, it's significantly higher in executive positions, and on the other hand, it's even more concentrated in the financial industry. How would you explain that, Manfred?
Probably in many permutations. I mean, it's easy to generalize. I've interviewed many people in the financial section and sector, and one reason when you look at their, I mean, I listened to their stories, and quite a considerable number of them come also from families there was nothing, or there were really financial difficulties. They had to hide because bills were not paid, and so coming back to. The whole idea, the FU money, I wrote once an article actually in praise of FU money. I couldn't say fuck you money, that was apparently not acceptable.
No, 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 but I think it's quite well known with the
F,
FU
F,
expression.
F,
Yeah,
dash, dash, dash. So
yeah,
that's one group of people. Now, it also has to do with lifestyle. You probably, and of course, now you have all this cryptocurrency craze where people, I mean, in Holland we had the tulip, the tulip
yeah.
craze.
The tulip in I think the 16th century, or yeah, yeah.
But it's also the element of the people want to get rich quickly. What do you want to? I want to be rich. That's fantastic. Is that what your life is? Actually, many of the people in the financial sector, after a while, no, is it a life to become maybe now you have to become a billionaire, and then say, okay, I become the head of the cancer society, but I'm going to spend 20 years of my life just doing crazy stuff, and then I'm going to do good things. I don't know. But it happens. Many people it
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
But many of them also are in the financial sector gets relatively bored. They get bored with the work they're doing.
Hmm.
And if you're a board CEO, that's very dangerous because then consulting firms and uh, start to try to help you, and also
Yeah, they come up with suggestions like, would it be time for an acquisition or something like that? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
take over. You guys may do. I've seen it too often. So boredom is a warning sign, of course. It tells
Mm-hmm.
you that maybe you should change. And I think that I always like the Dutch word Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
Nixon is actually is good for you at times.
Yeah,
It's frustrating. I find it frustrating. When I don't have an idea on to write, I get very frustrated, but I also know that something will happen.
yeah,
But in the meantime, I'm very frustrated because I have no focus. And but it's also, I said, Nixon, you only really engage in Nixon doing nothing when you're dead, even when you sleep.
yeah,
And night I had some last night I had some dreams. So I mean, so and I pay, I guess, as a psychoanalyst, always quite some attention to dreams, particularly when people come to me with repetitive dreams or nightmares or whatever, particularly an adult. Children have lots of nightmares. That's
yeah.
part of, I think. But boredom is a warning sign, and but many people uh, are scared. I mean, I think many executives have the secret fantasy to be an entrepreneur, to do
Mm-hmm.
other thing. But 95% of them doesn't do it. Go to Tahiti and paint nude, like,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Hey, what I'm interesting, you introduced also in the same book the seductive operational bully,
yeah.
which you describe as a kind of,
SOB, SOB, the
yeah,
SOB.
an SOP, and you basically described it as a psychopath light. Um, my question is, have you ever coached or perhaps more accurately treated SOBs or leaders exhibiting the dark triads? And I'm very curious how you, if you did it, and then also which approach you followed, and the type of results or perhaps the lack of results that you could create in these circumstances. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about your own experience,
What a
Manfred?
difficult question. Now, one thing that you have to realize when people come to you with a problem, is it the real problem? And sometimes you're very naive and you listen to it, and somebody comes and say, listen, I have a problem with succession. My father's getting older and he should let go, and I think take over, and there's some problem. Could you help me? Now, I can set up a protocol, rules of the game, rules of engagement, and what the family should do. I've done that. But I am also very often quite naive. I listen to it, and what I'm trying to say is you have to be a little suspicious of the first interview. Is
Mm-hmm.
what they're saying to you really what the real reason is? And if you are just you think it is going to be a simple matter, you might say yes, okay, I will help you. And before you know it, you are in a total mess. And I have had really, and then we come back to psychopathic situation. There I have been in psychopathic situation. Would I really choose it? No. Because if you really use real psychopaths, the best thing is to lock them up and throw the key away, as I suggest. And you
Yeah.
do the hair test, which is this test about if a person is a psychopath. So if you want to have some, I mean, as everybody likes some successes in life. Now, to start to cure a serious psychopath, it's not, not exactly what you want in life. I mean, the bread and butter of coaches is the micromanager. That's the bread and butter. You see some small improvements and falls back again. But small improvement, fine. But with me, with psychopathic, they are very good at seduction. They're very good at seducing you when you think something happened. So I have dealt with psychopaths. They haven't been successful. Not really. No,
Mm-hmm.
not really.
No, no.
And if I would have known the person at the beginning, if the person was a psychopath, I would not even start. I would not have started the whole situation. But I have been in some kind of, particularly in family business. I've seen such, this thing about public organizations. It's easy to get rid of people, but
Yeah,
when you get to family businesses, it can be so crazy.
yeah,
You really want to have surrealistic situations of
yeah.
of the family business. Now, family business are important. I mean, I think 70% of the business are family controlled.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
On the average, so we don't even realize it, but that's the case.
Yeah, yeah, and they often also have advantages in the sense of, long-term vision, ties with society, environment, stakeholders. So it's to a certain extent a different relationship than, let's say, the hired help coming in to take care of the company for a while. So yeah, it's got very healthy, potentially very healthy elements in it. Yeah,
No, I mean the long-term vision. I'm all for it. If you all the time being traumatized by quarterly reports,
yeah,
and and you manipulate the books to fulfill your shareholders, not the answer either.
no,
But you have some very strange dramas. And of course, also you have the question of meritocracy. And do you always get the best and the brightest in those organizations when you
hmm,
know that Johnny is coming in eventually and is going to be the CEO?
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a delicate dance. But I think when I taught my class, I started this master degree program at INSEAD which was originally called Coaching Consulting for Change. I was trying to explain to my students, know when you're out of your depth. And coming back to your question and say, you have only one life. Do you want to hit your head against the wall? And if you like me, if that's the way you want to make a living, fine.
yeah, yeah. Do you want to be a Don Quixote for the rest of your life, fighting against windmills, or do you find a more thankful object? Yeah. And what do you think about life-changing traumatic circumstances? So if you think about people who you would describe as SOBs, if they're confronted with love of a beloved partner, terminal diagnosis, profound professional setbacks, have you seen people more or less come to their senses or change their behavior as a result of these circumstances? Or do you think it's so deeply ingrained in their being that, those extrinsic events don't have an impact?
It's interesting. Today I was writing on attachment behavior. And yeah, as mentioned to you, there are a number of patterns. And then the typical dysfunctional pattern is one is a very anxious attachment, so it's a clinger, and starts a relationship with a person who doesn't like, needs a lot of space, avoid
Hmm.
attachment. So you have one person running after the other. And the question is, can you do something about it? Yes, you can do something about it, but it's very hard work. And as you said, I think very appropriately, if you talk about certain narcissistic individuals, uh, if you're at midlife and you're no longer Don Giovanni, meaning that the women fall over you, you need glasses, hearing aids, whatever you might.
Yeah, I think we have some of those. We start to develop some of those elements. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Also, when your wife decides to quit and your children hate you, maybe something is happening to you. So I get those people. They start to become aware that life. Now, one hand, life has some comforts given what they have achieved. Other side, they have no. I mean, I had one executive who said, I have no fun in life. I mean, and so you tell him, the chairman of the board, you have all those resources, but said, I feel miserable. And then you can work with some of those people. You can do something with them.
Hmm.
So now when you have beauty, money, power, the whole that, it's very hard to start a working relationship, whatever it might be. Why would it come?
Hmm.
Everything seems to be fine.
Yeah.
You're well defended. I mean,
Hmm.
everything. But as I said, when certain things are falling apart, and then of course you have what's even more dramatic is was a man called William James. He was famous psychologist, but also the the president of Harvard. He talked about once born and twice born. So if you have life-changing experiences, like you survive a cancer, you're lucky you survive a cancer, or you had a major accident, you managed to survive. That might also be a trigger point that you say, listen, I mean, there was a cardiologist, Sir William Oslo, said the best thing that can happen to an executive is to have a mild coronary at mid-age. When you're lying in the hospital bed with all tubes coming out of you,
Yeah.
maybe, then you start to think about, I should do something about my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And
the
and if you work with these people, because I thought it was intriguing what you said, Manfred, that if they basically go into such, you have these, they have these events, what you said about the executive who had everything but was, not happy. How do you help them to, let's say, reinvent, their purpose in life?
now one of the problems with one of those people is that they, one person was an entrepreneur. He built up a very large company, but that was it. He doesn't know to enjoy himself. The only enjoyment he has is probably to find some new clients or some
Yeah, yeah, growth in itself, or yeah, yeah,
but it becomes after a while it becomes meaningless. I mean,
yeah.
the important, I always quote people the famous Harvard study, which was used to give people a book called Lives in Progress by Robert White. And of course, Robert White died, and everybody died. I'm not age, everybody. But it was a study from the start in 1938. And I think everybody's dead, but it was the most intense longitudinal study of lives, where the Harvard sophomores and the control group in
Oh, I remember that. I remember that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a famous. Yeah,
You
yeah,
can actually look at a TED talk of the last director.
yeah.
I listened to him actually when I was at a reunion at Harvard. It's worthwhile listening to him. But basically, I wrote a little book called Quo Vadis, which is not an original title because it comes from the Bible, but it really has to do, what do people really want in life? And that's to do with meaning. But meaning is a very complex concept because there's a number of factors. One has to do with, what kind of natural talent you have. Like some people are, like when you talk about Bankman Fried, obviously he was good in mathematics. He was a real mathematical genius in certain ways. So he should have become a mathematics professor. He would have been a good life as opposed to go in this whole crypto or whatever it might be and not sitting in jail. Although Trump may take him out now because he now has become a Trumpist. That's why I
Yeah.
get pardon.
Yeah, lot of people get second lives under Trump, perhaps,
Yeah.
to quote our earlier discussion. Yeah.
So asking yourself, what is your real competence, what you're really good at, and what gives you a sense of flow, sense of that you lose a sense of time. The second thing also has to do with choice. You have to make certain choices in life, and the most important choices you make in life are usually like this young man I talked to yesterday. What I'm going to do with my life, and the other thing has to do is partnership, and we don't do so well. I was before the pandemic. I volunteered to. I know you shouldn't volunteer to give a talk at my first university, which was University of Amsterdam, and
I think that's the best university. I think we both would we both would agree to that, right?
was a rotten program. Really learned, really work at Harvard.
I'm a proud University of Amsterdam alumnus, so we probably need to yeah.
Maybe it's very different now, but those days the professors had no clue about how to teach. Had no
Mhm.
clue, no clue. No, no. As a actually, I learned from them that teach how important good teaching is. Anyhow, I was wondering, I had so many useless courses. And when my particular cohort would have had Psychology 101, maybe they had made better choices about their career and their partners. Because
Mhm.
many became alcoholics, divorces, I mean, a mess. And so that is the other one. But the most important thing, when you talk about meaning, and coming back to that study, is a sense of belonging.
Mhm.
Relationships is family and friends, and we
Yeah.
forget that when you're as a young careerist in your late 20s, early 30s, you ignore those parts of life. Those are the most important thing. Having good relationships, that's what makes life makes for a good life. And that was the real result of that study. That when we asked those people what was really important, that good relationship with family and friends. And,
Yeah.
and since I've done a lot of work in family businesses, you can see how many messes there are, and how to avoid that from happening. And people realize the importance of those factors. Of course,
Yeah.
elements also, and I talk about my book, Quo Vadis, I talk about transcendence, that giving is better than taking. And of course, there's always the oxygen principle. You should also take care of yourself. Your self-care and self-compassion is important, but element of gratitude, expressing thank you to people when people do something for you, and also giving to people. It's good for the mental health. So one of the things you have to do when you deal with executives who have everything and say have no life, I have miserable life, to try to help them diversify their interest, to start do other things than just having another selling more, having more growth and things like that. Because
Yeah.
that
Yeah, rather than basically increasing your revenue with 10%, would it be, let's say, less quantitative goals that would be interesting? Hey, if I quickly move to, let's say, the victim side of people who work for SOBs, do you have any practical psychological protection strategies for people who are being managed by SOB? I mean, I had it a couple of times in my life, and it never ended well, unfortunately. So is there a way where people can set boundaries, because a lot of people cannot leave, right? The ideal situation would be you leave the role, you move on, but sometimes you just have to, let's say, ride out the cycle for 1 or 2 years before the person gets either fired or moved on. But what kind of, let's say, strategies would you recommend victims of SOBs, Manfred?
no, it's a typical comment. I work for toxic boss. That I hear it over and over again.
Yeah.
But the first thing I do, I actually wrote an article for the Harvard Business Review about it also, to try to put my particular angle on it. I first asked them, imagine you are in your boss's position. What are the kind of pressures the person has? That
Hmm.
helps just to understand a little bit why certain things happen. But in general, if it's a real SOB, quote unquote, you have only one life. You can say, okay, you can try to, I like the organization in general, so I like to stay there. So maybe you can make a lateral arabesque and get out of that particular, but if that's not possible, quit.
Yeah.
You have only one life, so find somewhere else. The thing is, one should make more of an effort of singling those people out earlier before they reach the top positions. And I've been quite an advocate of 360 feedback systems I developed when I was the director of our leadership center. As a kind of competitive strategy, I had to develop. I'm not a psychometrician, but I basically joined up with the best in France, and I developed a lot of tests. So the 360 help a little bit because people who are SOB types, they're very good in managing upward. But the
Yeah, you said it. You wrote it. Yeah, yeah. Very, very charming, very
people,
engaging. Yeah, yeah,
but the people down, they know what's going on. And if if they have any guts and you have a system of 360s, you might get the feeling there's something very, very wrong. The problem is that many organizations are very short-term oriented. We have this bastard in Athens who has fantastic results, but everybody hates him and people just keep on leaving. But we keep him instead of saying, listen, he doesn't live the values of our organization out, or basically shape up, or otherwise you will be out. So they let it be, and too long, and finally it finally has to become a scandal almost when something really happens, when really some decisions are made.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, because that bastard in Athens brings in the numbers, and the numbers are something that's basically being discussed at the annual meeting, and the engagement survey typically not. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
It's very sad because you have to. It's two things. Does the person have the values, and does he have the returns? And of course, the perfect person is the values and returns.
yeah,
There are some people who have the values but not the returns, so you give them a chance. If not, and say do something about it. But then the problem, the SOBs are the people have the returns, but not the values, because
yeah.
they are toxic for the organization. And they,
Yeah, yeah, but I think the difficulty is that it's usually also, in addition to what you say, it's often also a kind of short-term, long-term effect, because I've seen a lot of SOBs creating impressive short-term results,
exactly.
but then they need to leave, let's say, in 2 to 3 years, because then suddenly all the corpses come falling out of the cupboard.
Yeah, the short-term results very often are on the bodies of other people.
Yeah, exactly.
They credit for the work of other people. They're very good in that. They move on,
Yeah,
so people
yeah,
they're untouchable.
yeah,
But that's that's a task of senior management to really figure out that something is very wrong there. But many
yeah.
Many of them coming back, your comment about figures. They say, okay, he brings in the figures, let it be. Or they asked me, can you coach this person? He's fantastic, but he has
Yeah,
this.
we want a figure, but now we need someone to develop the behaviors or the values. Yeah.
I had actually last week somebody asked me, we have this fantastic person in this bank. He's fantastic in organizational transformation, but everybody hates his guts. So, and of course, people hate your guts when you have to transform things, but it could be done in certain ways. So I said, that and actually, I recommended to them to do a group intervention. You have a better chance that something going to happen than just a one-to-one. I mean, I may be seduced. I'm not going to do it, by the way. I don't want to do it. I give it to somebody else. But this is a typical comment. And fantastic, fantastic. But the central bank hates him. They hate him and hate him.
No,
Not good.
no. And we as a company want to eat our pie and have it too. Yeah. Yeah. And Manfred, you finally you write in one of your books that leaders of the future will need to be able to recognize their strengths and weakness. They will need to understand the darker side of leadership. Why is this self-awareness so critical, and how can we effectively teach our leaders of the future to recognize their own dark side? Because when I did my MBA, it was not not a topic that was discussed on a daily basis, put it that way.
No, no. Unfortunately, but it's helpful to have some ideas of your shadow side, I think.
Mm-hmm.
You're more an integrated person, but I've seen many executives who go whistling through life, not having no clue what they're doing. That's is also the case. Basically, when you take a 2 by 2 matrix, it's like, don't like, important, not important. You should know what is not important and you don't like. So you should not be there. You should have good sense not be there. Some people don't realize that. Then something is important but don't like. I mean, in my case, it's the copy editing phase of books.
Yeah.
When I queries. So I had a person a person from book I wrote a book called Life Well Lived. And the person who was the copy editor kept on sending me requests for clarification of where do you get this from and where you get that from. And she drove me crazy. I answered the questions, and finally at the end I said, "Do you do some freelance work?" He said, "Yes, yeah, I know I'm a terrier. You know I'm a terrier. Yes, I know I'm a terrier." So now I use her. I don't use any. I'm nothing to do with it anymore because I'm not good at it. She does everything for me. So you should realize, don't like but important. Give it to somebody else. Know a little bit about it. You shouldn't be an idiot, but
You should know enough to delegate. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But what really is important is what's important and like. By the way, also not important and like go golfing or whatever, go fishing, whatever you like, is good for the soul. That's where you get the ideas. But it's important that you spend your energy, and that's the reason about knowing yourself, what you like and what's important. That's where you can really add value. And many executives have no clue. So I asked them, how do you spend your week? What do you do?
Yeah.
Where you get what is important to you, to get a sense of how they spread their energy. So that's the reason, some self-understanding. But I'm a realist. I know that many executives. I mean, I'm trying to create reflective practitioners, reflective executives, but many couldn't give a damn. So that's what is their problem. And in the short run, they may have actually do a good job, but in the long run, I
Yeah.
wonder. I wonder.
Yeah.
That we have this son of a bitch who's our CEO. He has great results. I mean, what about all your comments about a sense of humility and understanding other people? He's doing okay. He's doing okay. I mean, I've seen particularly in Russia, some executives, I mean, some of them had to have their mobile phone glued to them even when they take a shower. They were on call 24 hours a day. So you would explain to the CEO, you listen, this is not a way to work. Of course you pay them well, that's the reason they hang in there, but they will not stay eventually. But
No.
not easy to convince them that
Yeah.
that's not a life.
Yeah.
That's not the way to treat your people.
Yeah. Hey, Manfred, thank you so much for this conversation.
You're welcome.
I have an idea that we could talk for hours.
I don't know. I mean, a little bit of I guess due to the operation which happened last week, uh,
Yeah.
problem in looking. My eye is my eye is not so good at the moment, but it will go away in a week or so.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed the interview. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and experience.